say that. Look, Zia is rightly identifying big problems, and he's saying we're going to have to make some changes. And the way I think that you can make those changes is to start planning in opposition, not just saying what are the laws we're going to change, but it's actually starting to coalesce the teams that you're going to bring in and start building new institutions in opposition. Start building these things in shadow form, these new delivery mechanisms for your agenda that you can bring in either formally into government and designate them as agencies very quickly once you're in, or you can work to commission them in the way that Michael Gove did the New Schools Network, which was a charity that one of his former advisors, Rachel Wolfe, set up in advance of the 2010 election to help deliver the free schools programme. And Michael came in and he was immediately being they were trying to paralyse that agenda by saying, oh, procurement rules mean you can't work with the New Schools Network. And Michael, at the time, to be fair to him, he really had the confidence to say, no, I am the Secretary of State. I have said this is a manifesto priority, going to deliver it. So he overruled the procurement objections and he designated the New Schools Network as its delivery partner for the Free Schools programme, which was a manifesto priority for the Conservatives. And that's the kind of approach that reform will need to take. So reform is going to need, I think, a network of different institutions around it, really focused on delivering developing and then delivering the agenda. And it's going to need to take control of the core executive again. It's going to need to rationalise, in my view, the number of Whitehall departments. It's going to need to shake up the structure of how the Cabinet Office at the centre, which is where a lot of power sits under the Cabinet Secretary, how that is structured. In my view, it should get rid of the Civil Service Commission and it should probably repeal the Civil Service, Constitutional Reform and Governance Act. It needs new arrangements. These things were of their time. It needs to do away with a range of bad laws and get back to core basics. We need to look at the powers of the Treasury, how the Treasury is structured. We need to look at the Office for Budgetary Responsibility, all sorts of things that we can do. But start building an opposition. And I have a thread where I set out some of those ideas, and I'll throw that up on screen, I'm sure, when I get to editing all of this. You can check it out. It's on my X account. It's called Upstream Fundamentals. I think it's pretty good. It's not it doesn't have all the answers, but it sets out my view on the kind of structures reform should be thinking about. And Lee Hurst, he also talks about this, about shadow civil service. He's right. We do need to start building this. I would say reform needs a kind of a strategy unit that's kind of separate almost from party HQ, which are dealing with the day-to-day ruckus, in Westminster, the battle and the campaigning. Reform needs a strategy unit that's focused on developing long-range policy and on developing the first 1,000 days. I'm not going to say first 100, it's got to be the first 1,000 days, because it's going to be a long-haul struggle over the first 3 years to grab the machine and make things work. Reform needs a strategy unit. Reform needs an institution builder, I also argue, in my thematic thread, Upstream Fundamentals. It needs an institution building kind of vehicle